Hey, it's Marshall Tingle with your Superior Ag Insurance Ringside report for the week of September 20th. Going to do things a little bit different this week. We've seen a whole lot more of your heavy cattle trade. We're going to talk a whole lot about that this week. So the week of September 20th, we had 17,961 head of cattle traded across the state of Kentucky this week, and the feeder cattle market as a whole. So your steer cattle this week were going to be uneven. $2 to $2 higher to $2 lower. And that's going to be pretty much across the board on all weight categories of your steer cattle. Now your feeder heifers, same type deal. They're going to take probably on average a steady $2 decline. And I think a lot of this is just going to the fact that we're getting closer to your fall runs and you're starting to see a bigger supply of these feeder cattle coming in. And guys are really being a whole lot more picky based on whether those cattle are weaned and preconditioned, vaccinated up, versus if they're your new crop, fleshier type cattle. We all know that this type of weather is going to be really, really hard on those balling calves as far as your cool mornings, hot afternoons, back to cool nights, or even like it has been the last week or so where it's been really, really cold and wet and then turns around and you're right back up there in the 80s again. So that's going to be really, really hard on those soft those new green type cattle, your fleshy balling type calves have never been off their mamas. That stress can have a huge impact on herd health, and I think we're just seeing a reflection in the market as far as your buyers being more selective. If you've got so many calves to choose from, why not go ahead and pay a little extra from a backgrounder standpoint and get those calves that are turnout ready, preconditioned, pre-vacked up. They're not going to walk the fences. They're not going to be as liable to get sick and break right off the bat. So I think that's where your biggest increase is coming from, as far as that variable there in your price. Now, not going to talk a whole lot about your lightweight cattle this week. They're still some of your 3 and 4 weight cattle. If they're sure the kind, they're still going to be right up there at that $1.90 to $1.99 mark. Your lightweight heifers, if they're going to be pre-vacked up and preconditioned and ready to go, they're going to be right there at that $1.40 to $1.61 mark. Not too much change there. Just consider your variable there, that $2 plus or minus, and your $2 back on your heifers. However, the biggest part of the week this week, the biggest difference we saw is 53% of your feeder cattle traded this week were going to be over the 600-pound mark. So that tells me, as it should this time of the year, everybody's starting to market those spring turnout cattle, those cattle they've had out on grass all spring and all summer. They're starting to come to town as people are starting to think about putting in that fall crop. So that's what we're seeing there. And let's talk about some of those numbers there. Had a really, really nice trade this week as far as your heavy cattle are concerned. Saw a lot of loads, a lot of your heavier cattle, your 8 and 9 weight type cattle coming through here, and they traded very, very solid. We're going to compare that to the CME feeder cattle index this week. And in a lot of instances, we actually exceeded that, which is outstanding. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happened this week, and it happened really well. So let's go through there. Here's just a little example now. This will be kind of what I wouldn't consider a load lot. This is just going to be 25 head of them. They're going to come off of a cow-calf producer that's sure enough done his work. He's got these cattle weaned up, vaccinated. They're turned out ready. A nice set of steers here. So let's go over your steer cattle. Here's 25 head of all black steers, 697 pounds at $1.59.50. Now, let's get into these 8 weight cattle. Had a whole lot of 8 and 9 this week, and some really impressive numbers. Like I said, here's 117 head of these black steers, 813 pounds on the average, $1.54.80. Now, here's another set of them. 59 head of these cattle, all black as well, 817 pounds at $1.55. Outstanding. Now, let's do a little comparison here. We've got three really comparable sets of cattle, black-coated, mixed, and Charolais, to compare through as we go through your steers and your heifers. But let's compare these. So, your blacks were 817 at $1.55. Here's a set of them, 87 head of them. These will be mixed. Charolais blacks, maybe sprinkling a red. 818 pounds at $1.5275. Now, that's not too much of a difference there for a mixed set. Your blacks at 155, mixed at 152.75. Not too much of an adjustment there just for not having them all black. Now, here we go. 114 head of these. They're going to be black-coated steers. 827 pounds on the average, $1.5290. Now, let's go up here and do another comparison now. Here's 116 head of these cattle. These are going to be block-coated steers, 903 pounds on the average, big 9 weights, $1.4975. Now, this is going to be the light cut or the mixed cut of them off. This is going to be your colored cut right off of them, 44 head of them. These will be your mixed steers, 909 pounds on the average, $1.47. So just go ahead and compare there. About $2.75 for your mixed cut right off those black-eyed steers. So not too much of a discount on color, and still a very, very solid trade. Here, let's go on up here at the same consignor. These would be his heavier end of them. 110 head of these. These are going to be all blacks as well. 957 pounds on the average. $1.4675. So nice trade there. Here we go. Your heifer cattle for the week. Like we've been seeing, not a whole lot of your big 8 and 9 weight type heifers, but still seeing solid trade on your 6 to 7 weight heifers. So here's 142 heifers, all black, 678 pounds on the average, $1.5195. Here's another set, 74 head of these heifers, all black as well, 723 pounds on the average at $1.47. Now here we go. Let's do a little bit of comparison here now. Here's 137 head of these heifers. These are going to be all blacks at 803 at $1.4280. Now, here's your mixed set. Same weight category. 67 head of them. These will be your mixed, $791 at $1.4395. So in this instance, your mixed cattle actually sold over what your blacks did. There's a little bit of difference there, about 10 pounds difference in your weight. But looks like $1.15 on the plus side for your mixed cattle. Now let's do the same thing on your Charolais cattle. Now this same weight category, 68 head of these. These are going to be all Charolais cattle, just Charolais cross as they come, not a black, not a red, just Charolais cross. 773 pounds on the average on these, $1.3975. So just give you a little bit of comparison between $1.4280 for your blacks and $1.3975 for your Charolais. Not too much of a margin difference there. Did have some Holstein trade for the week. Had a big string of Holsteins, 71 head of these. These are going to be Holstein steers, 640 pounds on the average at $1.1825. So a nice trade there. And as we all know, kind of your Holstein steer trade can be kind of spotty, depending on where you're located in the state and kind of what kind of market you're at and who's brought their cattle to town, kind of condition on that. But here's a nice setup. There's about 200 of these cattle traded on average. They're going to be right there in that 350 pound weight range, and they were going to average $1.24 to $1.2525. So very good trade there, and that's a nice comparison between $1.24 going in and $1.1825 going out in a perfect world. So that's not too bad. Now, fat cattle this week. Your negotiated cash sales on fat cattle. Let's look at the 35 to 65% choice category. You had 736 head of these cattle traded this week. They're going to average, the weight range is 1,300 to 1,400, so they're going to average 1,350 on the dot. And the price range on those cattle traded negotiated was $1.22 to $1.24, with an average being $1.2365. So that's what's going on in your fat cattle world. If you want to compare that versus your big 9-weight steers here and your 8-weight steers, just kind of give you an idea of what's going on in that. Now, your CME feeder cattle index for the week, I would call it pretty steady. You had a little bit of fluctuation in it, but not by a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. So starting off Monday, the CME is going to be $1.5377. Tuesday the 21st was $1.5357. Now Wednesday we saw an increase. Wednesday the 22nd it took it up to $1.5449. Thursday it backed up just a little bit, but not by much. Thursday the 23rd was $1.5398. And then back by Friday, we're back up on top of the world at $1.5487. But all in all, it's pretty close, pretty steady, just a few dollars fluctuation here and there, but nothing I would consider extremely drastic. Now, let's talk about some of these cattle and how they're going to compare to the CME. So remember, the CME feeder cattle index is always based on an 8-weight steer. So let's look at these 8 weights now. So we had, right here was a set of them, the 117 head of all black steers, 813 pounds. Let's compare that to Wednesday's index at 154.49, and these cattle were traded right there within that same 24-hour time period. 117 head of them, 813 pounds, $1.5480. Compare that to your CME index with 154.49. You're going to be 31 cents over the CME index for that trade. Now, here's another set of them. Just as another example, you're going to be your 59 head of these, 817 and $1.55. They're going to be 51 cents over the index. Now, you ask about what about these colored cattle that are a little bit back. So the 87 head of mixed steers at 818, $1.5275 is what they traded for in the cash. Now that's going to be $1.74 under the index. But now you can slide them just a little bit based on color and kind. We do it primarily off of weight, but you can slide them a little bit right there based on that color, your mixed versus your black, and it's going to be still right there in that meat and potatoes of that CME index. Now, we always say that the CME feeder cattle index is based on an 8-weight steer. So what if I sell 9-weight cattle, you ask? Well, let's look at these big 9-weight steer cattle. The 116 head of black-hided steers weighed 903 at $1.4975. Outstanding trade. Now, if you look at it right off the bat and compare that to the CME feeder cattle index of 154.49, that's going to put you at $4.74 under the CME. So you think, well, what does that mean? Well, let's go ahead and do the 8-cent slide on that. So if you do your 8-cent slide on that, for the 100-pound weight difference, that's going to put you to $3.26 over the CME. So that's how that slide works. We adjust them there just a little bit to keep you right in there and give you an honest comparison. We feel that 8 cents is going to be pretty solid. It might fluctuate depending on kind and type, but just for example, an 8-cent slide on that would be the example we use. Now, what about these other ones here? Now, 44 head of them, 909 at $1.47. Right on paper, right off the bat, looking at it, that's going to be $7.49 under the CME. But again, like I said, if you adjust them there for that 100-pound weight difference, in theory, that's going to put them 51 cents over the CME, just like those same cattle would have traded for $1.55. So that just kind of gives you an idea on how these cattle are trading to the CME. And for being right here on the eastern part of the world, right here in the heart of the bluegrass, that's a really outstanding trade that we can compete with the Midwest and the West. It doesn't happen all the time, and we've got so much more variables than they do as far as trucking those cattle out there and everything else. That's pretty substantial that we can be trading right there with them. Cattle on feed report came out at the end of the week, and we want to go over that real fast. Won't go too in-depth on it, but just kind of give you a rough breakdown on what's going on in that aspect. So your cattle on feed report came out, and we showed a 1% decrease from this time last year. So your 2020 cattle on feed report was 11.4 million. 2021 is going to be 11.2 million. So just a little bit of difference there, but now where those cattle went to is going to be on your placement side. Cattle placement actually went up for 2020, was 2.06 million, and for 2021 was 2.10 million. So there's a little bit of increase in that, and I think that's going to be where we're seeing the difference there. Now, the biggest increase in cattle on cattle placement is going to be on your heavier cattle. The biggest jump was going to be right there at that 9 to 1,000 mark. Let's go over those, just kind of compare them to last year. So compared to last year, your 6-weight, under 600-pound cattle, we're going to be steady. Now your 6 to 699, we're going to be down 25,000 head. So less of those in placement than this time last year. Your 7 to 799 weight cattle, $10,000 up from what they were last year. As far as your 8 to 899 weight cattle, you saw a 12,000 head jump from last year. Now here's the biggest jump. Your 9 to 1,000 weight cattle, 45,000 head more than this time last year. So your 1,000 weights were up 5, but the biggest jump, like I said, 45,000 head more in that 9 to 1,000 range. Now, what does this mean? In a nutshell, all this means is that your heavier, short-dated cattle were placed in August to catch that December to February fat cattle period. So they didn't put them in all the way in at the lights. They kind of held them out there on the heavy side, put them in there at your 9-weight, your 8 and 9 weight type cattle, and really caught them in there on that December to February fat cattle period. The marketing of these cattle was going to be pretty solid as it was last year. No fluctuation at all on that, if very little at any. But your it was at 1.89 million, and that, like I said, was right on par as it was for 2020. But now 2020 was going to be 3% back of what 2019 was. So we're back a little bit, but steady across the board. So that's just kind of going to give you a rundown on what's going on in the cattle world this past week. Like I said, a whole lot of these big heavy cattle going through there and trading very, very solid. But now that being said too, we're still seeing on your upper end, your 3 and your 4 weight steer cattle in some instances right there at that $1.90 to $1.99 mark. So, that's a whole lot of input to go in. Now would be a really good time to assess your risk on this. This would be a perfect time for an LRP, a livestock risk protection plan. We cover all categories, all sexes, and all types of beef cattle and swine. So if you have any questions about that, call our friend Ian Thomas at 859-613-2453. We'd love to go over your options with that. Production agriculture always has a lot of risk involved, but also can have a whole lot of reward. Allow us at Superior Ag Insurance to help you manage that risk. We can kind of go over the numbers with you real fast and kind of understand what your basis would be and kind of what we're working with. I think at this time of the year, especially with all this going on, and as volatile as a market can be. Everything is really solid right now, but you can have a drop in the market at a drop of a hat. I mean, you know how it is. It's so many variables going into this deal, and so much risk involved on this little lightweight calf. So, and same could be said if you're putting your fat cattle in. There can be a whole lot of risk in there. A lot of factors going on in the world around us. But like I said, if you're interested in LRP, a livestock risk protection plan, go ahead and call Ian Thomas, 859-613-2453. Here at Superior Ag Insurance, we strive to provide superior ag insurance, superior service through experienced and superior agents. So give us a call, 859-613-2453.